And welcome back to the New York Giants franchise rebuild. Here today, we will be setting up for year number 4. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I hope you're all having a great day. Please leave a like, comment down below what you thought of today's action, and don't forget to subscribe. As we're coming off of an off-season video where we have made a lot of significant changes to the team. We primarily focused on the offensive side of the football this past offseason, bringing in 3 players through this past offseason, starting off with a big one here, trading away Isaiah Oliver, John Ware, and a second and a third or fourth round pick for Drake London. I wanted a true legitimate number 2, and I feel like Drake provides that for us. He's a big-bodied receiver that has very good hands, okay route runner. We'll work on that in these next couple of seasons, but in my opinion, London is still young enough. He's very good. He's kind of the receiver I wanted to bring in. The thing is this, London has never hit 1,000 yards, and he's never scored over 10 touchdowns. So hopefully he can prove not just to be a number 2, he could be a true number 1. The good thing, though, is that London has 2 years left on his contract, and he's being paid really nothing. Less than $8 million this year, and then less than $9 million the year prior. So I believe that London can be that very nice complementary piece to Malik Neighbors as well as Theo Johnson. But I was not done. I decided to draft with our first selection running back Taylor Wilkerson here. Wilkerson, 21 years old, out of Miami. He's an elusive back with 90 speed, 93 acceleration, 91 agility. He is only normal development, but I do think that in this up-and-coming season, he will get opportunities to play. I don't know how much of a role he will have, but he'll get his touches, he'll get his plays. But, you know, maybe mostly on returns. He probably fills the role of Singletary in my eyes, but kick returns he might also do as well for us. And I decided to also bring in, and this is probably the last big free agent we brought in, was veteran guard Elton Jenkins here. 83 overall, a top 10 guard in our league, and all of his ratings in terms of blocking are, in my opinion, solid. He's a better pass blocking than a run blocker, but I do think our offense we're trying to shift this offense to being, you know, better at passing the football, and I think Elton Jenkins provides that. I wasn't done. I still also added a few other names to this team. Running back Antonio Gibson was added. I decided to bring in Will Hernandez, Hunter Henry. Those were probably the next big 3. And then I also decided to replace Simon Oliver with Casey James here. And I think Casey had hidden development. He will develop nicely here. He could potentially be our starter in a few seasons. He reminds me a lot of Simon Oliver. And then on the defensive side of the football, this is where things kind of get a little bit interesting. Secondary-wise, we are staying with the same 5. You know, in terms of Derek Parks, Tyler Newman, Demetrius Evans, Christian Branford, and Drew Phillips. Letting go Devontae Banks in the secondary, it was just an inevitable move. He signs with Seattle, and, you know, he's a solid, he would have been a very good 4th corner. It does make me feel better having a better 4th corner. But we're going to go into this year seeing if, you know, Clark Phillips here or Cordell Flop can be the 4th guy. Who knows just yet? But the 2 big starters that we lost was in the linebacking room, Bobby Okereke. Deciding to bring in Devin Bush here to potentially be at least a starter replacement, but I'm currently looking at either Isaiah Simmons or second-year safety Jamie Davis here to replace really the role of Bobby Okereke. I think Davis will probably get the shot early on. This is going to be the, you know, something that we'll talk throughout this up and coming year, is this balance between trying to win a Super Bowl now versus trying to develop some of these young, interesting players like a Jamie Davis. That's going to be the balance, at least at the beginning of this season. but where I mainly focused was on the defensive line. Bringing in Leonard Williams here. He comes back to New York after playing a few years in Seattle. And I think Leonard Williams can play. He's probably a better interior pass rusher, but replacing Elijah Chapman, I think Leonard could potentially do that. We also, of course, have Leonard Sapp, the third-year defensive tackle. But in the second round, I decided to draft Bobby Brown here. Brown is a 6'2", 354. He's an excellent run stopper to start off his career, and I have a lot of expectation for him. Though, of course, losing Chapman definitely hurts us. Regardless, this is going to be most likely the starting team at the beginning of year 4. This is the season for John Sherman to finally prove himself and solidify himself as not just our franchise quarterback, but as a make us a legitimate contender year in and year out. His ratings are in a good spot across the board, and he's a top 16 quarterback currently. He needs to prove it this year. We've given him, in my opinion, the best offensive line that we possibly could. We have given him a plenty amount of playmakers. At the end of the day, this year is make it or break it here for John Sherman for this franchise. Now, at the beginning of this video, I said that we're going to be setting up for year 4, and that's today's video. So I am going to be showing you guys some preseason highlights. I'm going to play all the games, and anything that I show you guys, it's going to be uncommentary. It's just going to be the play. I don't know how many I'm going to put into today's action, but what I felt would be a fun thing to do is go around the league, potentially team by team, and kind of see some of their big changes in terms of the roster. So let's flip it over there. We'll start off probably with Chicago and kind of work our way down. And here are the Chicago Bears, of course, led by Caleb Williams. And this is the team that kicked us out of this past postseason in an embarrassing fashion. And this is the team that I'm looking at and hoping that we can beat and have, a good chance to. They have fixed up this offensive line. They have brought in plenty of players to truly help them out. This is a tough team, and I think down the line, they're going to be a lot of fun to play against. But the Cincinnati Bengals, the player that I want to focus on is Drew Murray here. Murray, the third-year back, he's going to become the starter here in Cincinnati, and his ratings are very good. Potential, not even just superstar, but a potential, 1,000-yard back and really take the lead by storm. He is also the highest rated drafted running back in the franchise. Flipping over to the Bills, one player that I want to point to you guys is James Ham here. Didn't know he was an X factor, and that's really the only reason I'm pointing him out to you guys. He's young, he's an X factor. I do have that setting turned off in terms of if players regress their in terms of their development trait. Let me know down below if you guys think I should turn that off. But James Ham here could potentially become a future quarterback, potentially. Sticking with the quarterback position, the Denver Broncos still have Bo Nix as their number 2 quarterback. Nix is rated 25 out of all the quarterbacks in this league. And you got to assume that he will hit open free agency at the end of this year at the age of 28. They brought in Brock Purdy a couple years ago. Purdy is, top 5 quarterback in the league. Excellent in terms of throwing the football. Very fun quarterback to think about. Staying on the topic of quarterbacks, Carlos Farrell here. Will he finally get a legitimate shot now to be the Cleveland Browns starting quarterback? Same draft class as John Sherman, but has really gotten only a few games played. Only 300 snaps. That might be like 6 or 7 starts in his career. So we'll see if he becomes the starter this up and coming year for the Browns. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers brought in Daniel Jones, and Daniel looks to be the starter here in Tampa Bay. a year ago, started a lot in San Francisco. I think he started a majority of the year, and he had a career high in touchdowns, a solid year in terms of interceptions. Daniel Jones has proven himself to be a solid quarterback in this league at the end of the day. He signed a 2-year, $12 million now to be the Bucs starting quarterback. They decided to draft in the top 10, Stain Bruce here, the rookie tight end, who I personally really liked. Bruce comes into the year already the top 16 ranked tight end in our franchise. I would have loved to bring him in, but unfortunately, I was not going to trade up for Bruce. One player that I missed out on was Philip Black here, the tight end that went to the Arizona Cardinals. Probably will sit behind Trey McBride, but Black has a legitimate chance to be a solid number 2 and eventual starter in this franchise. Another player to keep an eye on. For the Chargers, I don't have anyone that I wrote down. Let me see if I can just point one out to you guys. I mean, of course, Zach Fisher here. Can he become the starting running back for this Chargers team? They still have KJ Dobbs, 28 years old, might start to regress soon enough. For the Kansas City Chiefs, want to focus our attention on their drafted safety. Excuse me, not safety. I want to point to you guys the last year Heisman Trophy winner, Tevin Riddick here, running back, and he was drafted, I believe, in the 2nd round for this Chiefs team. It'll be a nice complementary offensive weapon for them. Now turning to the safety position here with the Indianapolis Colts, they decided to draft now Bradley Wheeler here, 80 overall, excellent in zone coverage, good hit power. He's a true superstar in the making here for this Colts team. Looking at our divisional rivals, they drafted Dwayne Mitchell here and pointing him out because he has 83 speed as a rookie. He's not an athletic back whatsoever, but he can catch, he can run it up the middle, he can do a lot of good things for you. We'll see how much of a role he has for the Commanders. But another player that they brought in was Bob Davison. They traded from him for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Davison being a superstar tight end, great hands, good underneath. He can move. He's going to be an excellent tight end for this Commanders team, and we're going to have to see him a couple times this season. As well as, can we continue to be dominant over this Commanders team? Flipping it over here now to the Dallas Cowboys, coming off their Super Bowl victory. Dak Prescott is slowly regressing. Is Ricardo Goodson the future? Can we have continued success against this Cowboys team, or are we set to kind of have a setback here? We'll see. Flipping over to our next divisional rivals, the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, we went 1-1 a season ago against them, and we're hoping that this year will be the year that we finally beat them. Focusing on Saquon Barkley here, 30 years old now. He signed another extension with his team, but Barkley is starting to regress here in this franchise. For the Atlanta Falcons, of course, number 2 wide receiver John Ware will pair up with Pete Baylor here, the first overall pick in a couple classes ago. Pete here is an excellent underneath receiver, 99 spec catch as well. Injury prone, but 22 years old, 6'5". Of course, we have to focus on Simon Oliver here, who we traded for. Currently looks like he's going to play like an 80 overall. Excellent in terms of pass blocking. I'm going to miss Oliver. He was definitely a fun, potential player. For the 49ers, let's go back to the quarterback room. 25-year-old Wade Allman here, the oldest quarterback and player from this past class. And he has hidden development, 99 throw power. Will he be the future quarterback here for the San Francisco 49ers? Sticking on the trend here with the New York Jets and Alfonso Mattis here, another rookie. And will Antonio become the new face here of the Jets organization? They also draft in this past class Mario Weathers. Weathers was the best player and the best receiver in this past class, and Mario is going to be expected to become a very big early contributor. Though they have Coakley here, they have Garrett Wilson, of course. You know, they have a lot of talent here at the receiver position here for the New York Jets. And the last player that I want to focus on is Quincy Quinn here, tight end, entering into year 2. Good hands, he can block, he can do a little bit of everything in terms of a tight end. He's very well-rounded for their team. For the Detroit Lions, with Jared Goff regressing now, Shane Haynes was drafted, a hidden dev quarterback with solid throw power, okay accuracies, athletic. Can Shane become their new franchise quarterback for the Lions? For the Panthers here, Carolina Panthers are the team all the way back in year 2 who kicked us out of the postseason, so we'll see if we can get another game against them. They've added a lot of fun talent to their team. For the New England Patriots, of course, Johnny Robinson. Still kind of beating myself up for not picking him. Robinson is already the 18th best tight end in the league, and he looks to be a very good playmaker for this team. And the first ever player drafted in this franchise is Grant Pryor here, a defensive tackle who's strong, coming off of a season with, I believe, 7 sacks. So very good year for the first ever pick in our franchise. Another player, back to the quarterback room, Preston Longwell, and he is slowly becoming the best ever drafted quarterback in terms of ratings. Preston has entered into year 2, and he's expected to lead this Raiders team to the promised land. But, excuse me, I forgot about Brad Wilkins here. True 83 overall, good accuracies, got the number 2 seed for his Rams team. We saw him firsthand, and he's very good. Another player that was drafted by this Rams team was a year ago is Larry Reed. If you guys don't remember, Larry was the best corner from a year ago, and he's developing very nicely here in LA. Still a very good player to have to deal with. For the Baltimore Ravens, Ben Becker here, a young quarterback that could potentially develop into something, but accuracies are bad, but he's an athletic freak. So who knows what they will do with Lamar Jackson. Not saying anything there, but Drexel Zach here. I think he's actually the best ratings-wise quarterback drafted in this franchise. Zach was the same year in terms of John Sherman. And then for their young receivers, they have Max Drake here, entering into year 3. Very good deep threat for this team. And then in this past class, they drafted Teddy Truman here to be an excellent duo here. They're looking to push the football deep down the field with these 2 young playmakers and Chris Olave. This is a very dangerous receiving core for this Saints team. Now for Seattle. Seattle has brought in a lot of ex-Giants, but they have Jordan Quincy here at quarterback. They've also added in, of course, they have brought in Love, but they brought in also Elijah Chapman to being this team's new starting defensive tackle here. Flipping it over here to the Pittsburgh Steelers, they still have Corey Burbank here. Will he become really the full-time starter? They brought in Will Levis, as well as they brought in Bobby Okereke on our team a year ago. He's probably our biggest loss in this past free agency pool, but Bobby Okereke, still a very fun player to have to deal with. And then flipping it over here to the Tennessee Titans, this past year's first pick in the class was Mitchie Wayne here, quarterback. And when will he get his opportunity here in Tennessee? As well as the Titans is giving him Jalen Hyatt as his number 1 wide receiver. This is really Hyatt's first season becoming, the top receiver on a roster. So we'll see what Hyatt can do for Tennessee. I just wanted to point these guys out to you, team by team, player by player. I'm excited for year 4. So if there's any sort of preseason highlights, that will start now throughout, these next few minutes or so. I don't know how many games I'm going to show, but yeah, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed today's action. Please leave a like, comment down below what you thought, and I will see you in the next one.